AA, see you in church. Hi, I'm Manuel, and it's story time. It's story time. I was gonna say it's storyline, but no. Story time, I think, is better. Anyway, here's a different story. Um, we had a group of ladies. They would all sit down with each other and they would talk of their experiences when they were younger, or family storylines. And there was one of the ladies who, and it's so funny, they all have the same location. It sounds the same to me, but um, one lady, her family moved, and it was just so funny. They moved, and they moved to an area that was surrounded by mountains. And they had all their stuff. Someone had told them it was time to move, and um, they had moved, and the area, from what they understood, got flooded. And if they hadn't moved, they would have lost everything. But luckily, they packed up their stuff and took off before the storm. And they took almost everything they could. They took their animals, they took seedlings, everything, what they could grab, and their furniture. They had trucks and stuff like that. Anyway, they had what they needed. It was, luck. So they went over and they got found a new location, a private location, and it had a nice small town in the middle of it. She always said it was like if you were living in the middle of a volcano, because there was mountains over here, mountains over here, mountains over here. They were in a distance, and in the center was the little village. So her and her family moved over there. They had moved all together, not like they were before, where they all had their own little areas. And they moved all together, and it was really interesting. She said that you didn't get to really get to know too many people because of what was going on there. They were all sort of like hush hush. By accident, the children heard something. And she goes, that was, her and the others, they heard what was going on. It was just so weird. So they went over and they said um, to their parents and everything. We heard that there were some strange wolves in the woods area. And because of the woods area, they went over and they put, I guess you would call it poison. They would get pieces of meat and they would wrap it around some kind of poison, and the poison was put out there. And supposedly, whatever that's been attacking all the other people's farms or whatever would eat that, and they would die. So they put it in different areas around their home. They didn't go wild, and nothing was getting eaten. So they just didn't concern themselves with it. And they just didn't listen. So they continued to, grow their stuff and everything. And one night, um, she said it was her cousin saw off in the distance something walking upright like a human, but it didn't look like a human. He was guessing that might be a bear. So he went and told them, and they were like, "There's no bears up here." He goes, "I don't know. That's what it looked like. It looked like a bear." So he said, "Well, stay away from there and you'll be okay." So they stayed away. You know how kids are, though. They want to be nosy. And kept going back, and they would look around to see if there were any scratching on the trees or whatever. Anyway, she went with him and she saw something move and she yelled, "Run!" And they both started running and running and running and running and jumped over. It was like a galley, I guess you call it, like a trench. They jumped across and kept running till they got home. And he says to her, "Well, what did you see? I didn't see anything." She goes, "It looked like a gigantic wolf." He said, "A wolf? I didn't hear no noise." She goes, "I don't know. It looked like a wolf, but it was huge." She goes, "But I didn't want to find out." I ran. So she goes, "So I told you run, and it was up to you. If you stayed there," she said, "I would have gone and I would have gone and gotten your slingshots." And he says, "You jerk." And she started laughing. And, she was trying to take the scare off of what they just went through. So then they went and they told their parents what she saw. He says to her, though, "Well, we haven't seen any traces of it." She goes, "Well, we were in the woods." And he tells her, he tells her, "I should spank you. We told you to stay away from the woods. It's too dangerous." And they were like, "I know, but we wanted to see what was out there. He said it was a bear. And I saw it look like a wolf." He goes, "Well, maybe both are out there. And you're going to be their next dinner if you continue to go out there, or at least killed." So he shared it with the people what he had heard from the kids, what they had seen. And the people said, "Well, we don't have wolves, and there's no bears that we know of here." He says, "Well, they could have come down." And they were like, "Well, no, this isn't bear country." And, well, he says, "I just came to tell you." So he went back home and he told them that he had told, you know, the little town that it was connected by their farms and everything, were because it was like a scattering of farms and then a small town in the middle, and people would go and they would um, to like a weekend sales and go sell your stuff, wares, and go get what you wanted or needed and stuff like that. So they had gone and they were doing what they had to do and whatever. So 2 or 3 days later, they go into town and they hear the parents go into town and they hear that someone's been attacked. That sounded like it was either a bear or a wolf. So they were like, "Oh well, you know." And he didn't go say, "See, I told you," or anything. He just continued. The elders went in and they went and got the foods they needed to live, and then went back home. And that's the way it was. They also take their stuff and they were allowed to put a table and sell their products. Anyway, she said her in town there was a small building for sale, and she said her mother and her aunt had the money to buy that little place, and they were going to use it as a small store and sell their products from there. They would live upstairs, and downstairs they would use as a store. So they went, and so their family would do what they were doing, and they brought their stuff, and they would sell, and then they would share the money with their family, and that's the way they kept it going. And they would also tell them the information they were hearing from in town, that several children disappeared and stuff like that. And they said, well, that was happening at the other location where they used to live. So, but we don't live anywhere near that now. So they wouldn't have come, because of what happened, also moved over there. So they didn't know what it was or who it was or whatever. She said that they could hear stuff going on near their home, their business and home. Because when they locked downstairs, it stayed locked. They weren't going in and out or whatever all night long or anything. The door downstairs got locked. They would move upstairs and they would stay upstairs. She was saying, and then she would go and visit them at the farm, and then they would come with her and bring products for them to sell, like pottery and stuff like that. So they continued to live their lives like that until finally something got shot and killed, but nobody knew what it was. When they shot and killed it, they said it fell off the cliff or something, that they didn't know there was a cliff unless they was in the mountains or something. They just never understood. It didn't make sense. She said they were scared because they had started hearing noises in the woods around the farm. She said so her mom was weary about sending her there, and she told the family if they wanted to come and stay with her at the store, they it was going to be cramped, but they would be able to, get away with it. And they said no, we'll stay. So it was just the five of them living at the store and cleaning, and they kept it upright and everything. And the kids could play and go to the playground. It was like a park in the neighborhood. Anyway, so when they killed the thing, that threat disappeared for a long time. She said she got older and was getting ready to leave, and it was back. They started hearing the sounds and everything. She said she had 2 weeks before she was gonna leave, and the thing had come back, and she told her family, "Haven't you thought of moving? Cause I'm leaving," she said. And they said, "No, this is our home." Blah blah blah. People. She said, and it was time for her to leave. She gathered her stuff. She said she got in a bus. There was a bus that would leave, or whatever it was. She said bus. I'm sure that's what she said. But anyway, whatever it was, she got in it. She was sitting way at the back, and there was this window. She goes in the back, and she liked seeing. She waved, and as it pulled through that little town, because she goes, it would go straight through. There was an exit there, and there was an exit there, and an exit there, and that way. But there was like mountains all the way around. But there was like a crack here, crack there, so that you could go. Anyway, so they were leaving, and she could have swore she saw this big, huge, hairy thing go by and turn and look at her, and it had like fangs. She said it scared the living daylights out of her. She said that she sat down and she wrote a letter, and they stop at different locations. So when they stopped, she got stamp, and she sent the letter to where they lived to let them know that she saw whatever it was. And it was in the road when they were pulling away. She goes, and it wasn't too dark. So she did get a good look at it. And she says, if that thing is what's been coming into the neighborhood and grabbing or whatever, she says, you should leave. She goes, there's nothing I can do to tell you. All I can tell you is what I saw when I was leaving. And that thing is got long claws, long, big teeth. And she goes, and it's completely hairy. And it looked like it had blood all over. So it had just done a kill. And she was like really, really scared. And I was like, it was dark. And we started hearing dogs howl around us. I remember when she told that story, and I got all scared. Everybody did. And they all started laughing. And we all just was like, okay, whatever. And my mom, she goes, let's go back inside. And I remember that day, we started walking towards the apartment. And as we got to the door, the lights all went on because we were in powerless. And scared the living daylights out of us. And I said, it's just the lights. She goes, I know. We shouldn't have got scared by it because it was light. But we did it. We were both scared. We went inside. My mom locked the door because she always did. And she put on the cooler. We had a swamp cooler. And the little fan would go back and forth. And we had already eaten and everything. So we didn't have to open the refrigerator. It was safe. But that was one of the stories, and it was sort of, it was sort of disturbing because she actually saw it herself as she got bigger and she was going to leave and go live her own life. But I don't know. I sort of thought maybe that was Bigfoot, but I've never heard of Bigfoot having big teeth and long claws. But maybe it could have been him. I don't know. But that was her story. It was interesting. But yeah, she told that story, and we were all like, oh, all sort of scared. And then all of a sudden, for some weird reason, the dogs all started howling. I think it was because power started turning on at the different areas. And by the time it got to us, we were already at the door. we were right across. We just walked back that way. But that was just funny. I started laughing. It scared us, but we started laughing. Anyway, have you ever heard stories like that? I think they're interesting. And the thing is that they're telling us two stories to their life. It's not my life. But these are stories that I was told when I was younger by the older people when they sat around and we didn't have no fire. It was already too hot. But anyway, what do you think about it? You can leave me a message, put the hand up, subscribe to my channel. And if you have anything you want me to think about talking about, let me know. But don't forget to AA. See you in church.